welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Ace tonight, and with me tonight, finally again, is Miss Rainey Love. Hello, darling. How are you?
I am wonderful, and I am so excited about tonight's show.
Oh, I know.
Aren't you excited?
I love tonight's show. I love the Yol's book. It's awesome. I love reading other personal stories, and I like how she's tied it in with being an adult. And, you know, because Crystal Children, Indigo Children all came out really heavy in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Correct.
But, you know, I hate to say this, Rainey, now they're adults.
Right.
And, you know, that's even, like, harder to function on is, you know, thinking, you know, because, you know, for me, you say 90s, I'm thinking, you know, wahoo, time to go party, let's work the nursing floor. You know, I was talking with someone the other day in a store, and, you know, we were talking about a store that used to be here. I don't know if you remember these or not, but do you remember Hex?
Yes.
And Ames? And we were talking about how this used to be Hex and Ames, and the cashier looked at us and was almost dumbfounded. And I'm like, oh, you'll never know that joy of blue light specials.
That's right. That's right. Well, welcome, everyone. We're really excited tonight, you know, to share this wonderful show with you. And we have just got so much to go over.
Oh, yes, we do. Well, you know, we're just now coming off that Valentine's Day. Well, some people call it Valentine's Day high. I call it my Valentine's Day recovery period.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for me, Valentine's weekend is normally jam-packed and piled up 10 foot deep.
Yes.
And, you know, just working in general. But there was something that happened in Utah. It was quite sweet.
I actually thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, and this little gentleman, well, I guess he's not little. I mean, he's a senior in high school, so I don't know how little he would be considered. But he made sure every girl in the school got at least one carnation. That was 900 carnations, and he passed them out to each of the female
class. A whole
class.
year or something like that to save up the money.
Exactly. He worked for the money. It wasn't handed to him, people. He worked for it. But he said it was very important because he did not want any of the girls in the school to be emotionally upset for not getting flowers on Valentine's Day. He worked as a cook and dishwasher. I've done both those jobs. It's even worse that it was fast food. I at least got a little bit family style. Of course, I think they may consider that fast food now. To save up the money. I mean, come on. This is, you know, it ain't like he made sure his girlfriend got 900 carnations. No, he passed them out individually, one by one, to each girl. I think this is so wonderful. I would love to see more young gentlemen take up this one. What about you,
Well,
Rainey?
you know what? I really thought it was wonderful. Okay, first of all, you know that he's like the guy at school, you know, just because he went in there and he connected and said, you know what, I respect women, okay? But just the sincerity of taking the time to do that, that shows a lot about his character as a person and as a young man, saying, you know what, every girl deserves to have that kind of validation. And I think it's wonderful, it's sweet, and you know what, just the sheer gift and the joy of being able to do that for them, but for him to be able to see that from each and every girl. Because, you know, there are some people who don't get acknowledgement. You know, and young people, you know, at our age, we're kind of like, okay, big deal. You know, I'll go to the store and buy myself some chocolate, you know. But, you know, for young people, sometimes, you know, things like that are a big deal. It's kind of like what we used to call being the wallflower at the dance, you know. And I think it's very, very special. Shows a lot about his integrity. And you're right. We should have more young people being taught that. I did find it kind of interesting that it was in Utah, though.
Yeah, it's in Utah, which is a normal. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things coming out of Utah because The only thing I think was the Salt Lakes and the big temple there, but a lot of different social media events and stuff is coming out of there, and a lot of scientist information is coming out of there, too. Something else.
Right.
Now, as you know, the astronomers are always looking for planets like Earth. Right now they're looking for something within the Goldilocks zone that's, so far from the sun that, could possibly sustain life, but not too close to the sun because it would be too hot. But they're fine and, possibly might have water. Now they're starting to even look for rare minerals like carbon monoxide. What?
Right.
Planets have to have carbon monoxide to support life, namely plant life. Obsidian.
Okay.
That real sharp gray rock everyone loves, it apparently is required.
Yeah, I used to hunt for it all the time when I was a little girl. We'd go out there and we'd look for arrowheads.
Mm-hmm. So according to the BBC researchers, they're discussing, how they're deciding these minerals. And if you look at some of these images, I don't think yet I could tell what was a rock, a planet, or a piece of fog here. But they're even looking at different other planets within our solar system, like Mars, to see if they have, like, cobalt and quartz and farmering. But apparently there is over 100 different minerals that they're using this new telescope that went up 2 years ago to be looking at to see if they can find more planets like Earth. So, Rainey, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think we're alone?
No, I do not think we're alone. And what I see that we know and we understand now, it's kind of like if you go back centuries ago when everybody thought the Earth was flat.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting ready to go to that next place there. And I don't know about you, but as a woman, if they can go to other places and find me some more gemstones, I am on it.
Honey, I'll take it. A tanzanite crystal anytime you want to hand it to me.
Okay.
Or diamonds. Both of them are just quite fine. I prefer the tanzanite, preferably the mystic tanzanite, but I'll take diamonds. But apparently these are minerals that are required for the building blocks of life.
Right.
And so not only are they looking for water to relocate us, but to even find life there. Obsidian I didn't really think is a life-giving mineral, but I guess maybe it is.
Right.
Because, obsidian is great for attracting things and stuff like that. But, Rockefeller University, wrote a preprint. It's in preprinting of researching and studying these things and using this telescope to find these rare rocks. And they've never even looked at checking into Mars because I don't think we've got the full story on Mars yet either. Do you?
No, absolutely I do not. I really do believe that, here in the next several years we're going to be finding out a whole lot of stuff that we've been digging and waiting for a long time to get there.
Right. But I also think that once we dig and once we find it, I don't think people are going to accept it originally either. I think it's going to be almost like when it was power. And they had to basically hire someone to turn a light switch on in hotels because no one believed it was safe.
Right.
So, and apparently they are not finding the minerals on too many planets, so that's even more. It's like they're refining things. By the way, did you hear about that there's now another planet that we now have officially? We have not 10 planets or 9 planets, depending on if you agree Pluto is a planet or not. Pluto is a planet. It's been a planet. Don't call it a dwarf planet. We don't call short people dwarfs. So why are we calling small planets dwarfs?
Well, I've always known Pluto as a planet. I know they took it off the list, but,
Yeah, whatever. So what have you been up to, Ms. Rainey?
I have really, really been focusing in on, I'm doing a lot of things with my clients with regard to personal work, personal growth, doing different things, and teaching people how to go in, self-evaluate, becoming successful, and really doing a lot of reading, taking courses. and helping my clients with that. And wonderful call tonight with one of my clients with regard to the different doors that are opening for her. Kind of what it's been about for me for a while here.
Well, and that's good, honey. Now, I hear you're writing a really interesting article in our newsletter this month.
Which really ties into this.
Yes. That's what I was wanting to get to, baby doll.
It's really about taking your power back, you know. And there's so many there's so much different information out there that, you know, a lot of us, you know, whether it comes from, you know, our family dynamics, going through life, you know, failed relationships, just the challenges in life. You know, we either, you know, grow up not feeling that we have power, or we feel disempowered, going through different things, and it's about healing and moving forward and really taking your power back, but implementing that and putting that into steps.
Right, and you can get our newsletter either by going over to our website and signing up at the bottom where it says subscription. It should be active probably within the next day or so. Or you can go over to Issues, because we actually publish with Issues. And in Issues, you can actually read of our newsletter. You can read a bunch of other newsletters, and it's even on your mobile app. So check that out. And, you know, we will each month be producing it and giving you food for thought and little notes from from each of our co-hosts' desks, special articles, and also the months ahead show schedule, because, you know, we're going to be having a lot of guests come on, and we want you guys to be calling in and talking to them and talking to us and really getting a chance to really tap into this wisdom. Now, Rainey, why don't you introduce our guest, and I'll bring you all on.
Absolutely. Well, tonight, we have the privilege of Yol Swan, who is a spiritual counselor, mentor, and a coach who has taken the understanding of the soul and the wounded feminine to new cosmic depth. Modern seer who perceives life as energy and is sensitive to other dimensions. And she began channeling spiritual messages in her teenage journals, and later developed a practical system of spiritual healing and energy management for more than 30 years, exploring the mind and psyche, guided by her intuitive gifts and her mystical experiences, as well as, enlightened teachers from both the Buddhist and Hindu traditions.
Once Yol realized that she was an indigo adult expressing wounded feminine on the planet, she noticed that some of her clients were also indigos, while mostly displayed many but not all of the indigo features. While identifying the spiritual wounded and codependent patterns they have all had in common, she discovered a feminine-masculine slow spectrum that explains the essential differences between many soul types inhabiting the Earth today. She shares her journey and profound insight in her new book, The Indigo's Journey, Spiritual Healing for the Indigo Adult and Other Feminine Souls, while she presents an independent view of the wounded feminine and indigo archetypes, as well as her spiritual healing system to help feminine souls. And everyone is willing to experience their feminine side, unlock hidden powers, discover their purpose, and balance the overly masculine world to bring in a new cosmic light circle. Welcome, Yol, to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, dear.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
And welcome. Thank you for joining us.
So most of us have heard of indigo children, but you claim that indigos come in all ages? Because I'm thinking, probably about 30s or 40s, but mid-30s now.
Well, actually, there's always been indigo souls on the planet. And so we started recognizing them in the early 70s or mid-70s, around then, because that's when things were speeding up towards the spiritual revolution that we're going through right now. to restore the feminine on the planet. So that's when we started recognizing, maybe we're not all the same on a deeper level, on a soul level, because these children are different. They're gifted. They have this creative energy and special intelligence and intuitive gifts and so on. But we've been here for a very, very long time. We've been here since Atlantean times and probably even before then. Just not as in big numbers as we see now. And younger generations of Indigos are still coming, and other, feminine souls like crystals and rainbows and so on, light workers. And we're trying to figure out all the labels for those new souls. But we've been here on and off throughout this whole process, throughout history and even prehistory. So that's what the book is about, is to help Indigos recognize themselves, even if they're not, from the 70s, if they don't belong to those particular generations, because all Indigos share a certain perception of life, and that's what makes us specific soul types.
Yeah. Now, it took you a long time to realize you were an Indigo adult? Am I correct?
Yeah, it took me a very long time.
Okay.
I had to go through, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
That's okay. You keep going.
I had to go through years of psychotherapy, trying to understand why I felt so different and why I perceived things in a way that other people didn't seem to perceive, and why I felt so alone, and my relationships were kind of difficult in that way. And then after years in psychotherapy, I kind of embarked on this exploration of consciousness on a 3-year personal retreat in almost complete isolation to really understand and manage my energy. I always perceived life as energy, and so and had access to other dimensions, but I didn't know whether I was just crazy or there was something wrong with me, because nobody else seemed to share that. And so I really delved into that aspect during those 3 years, trying to really understand what I was doing here, who I was, why I behaved the way I behaved, what was motivating me, and what was all the perception of the things that I was getting about. And so I had received messages, as a teenager, while journaling, in sort of a automatic writing, and they didn't make sense. I just kept them there. But even after those 3 years, after those 3 years, I started meeting enlightened teachers and follow a spiritual path, first as a Buddhist and then on a yogic path with a Hindu master. And even after all those years, even though I had finally found a spiritual family, I had created my own family, I still felt out of place, different, and that there was something missing, a piece of my puzzle that was missing. So it took me a very, very long time to realize I was Indigo, even though I had been given insight and kind of clues along the way. I didn't quite embrace that. And even when my daughter was born and someone handed me that book, The Indigo Children, The New Kids Have Arrived, I read through it and was like, well, these kids aren't special. They're just like me, I wasn't ready to recognize that. And I think that's what happens with a lot of Indigos, especially the older generations. Like, we don't see ourselves that way because we've never had that information. There was no guidance. There was no understanding that it's okay to be different, and that we have a specific purpose, and each soul type has specific function. So part of the purpose in writing this book, the Indigo Journals, is to help Indigos And other feminine souls, because Indigos are feminine souls, recognize themselves and feel more empowered, embrace who they are without feeling so alone and out of place.
So with most Indigo adults, they're often unaware of being an Indigo, as you were, right?
Right, because we all have that idea that they're just children. And even though those children are now adults, too, we still keep that kind of cliche sort of that they're children. And only children can be perceived as Indigos, but no, there's a lot. And they come in all ages and also personalities, because there's a difference between being an introvert Indigo and an extrovert Indigo. Those are differences that I also point out in the book that I've explored and observed in my clients and other people.
Now, you talk about in the book masculine and feminine layers of souls, masculine, female, and soul energies. Can you explain that a little bit? Does it have anything to do with the body they're in now, or?
Well, everything in creation is an interplay of feminine and masculine. Those two principles have to be interacting and exchanging their energies continuously for creation to continue expanding and evolving. So everything is permeated by those two principles. So the soul is essentially a spark of consciousness, and at the core of that soul, that core is neutral, but it's encapsulated in these energy layers that are both feminine and masculine. So the spiritual layer, which is the closest to that core, to the self, is feminine. That's where our spiritual senses lie hidden, in the subconscious, along with the recognition of our divine nature and the creative power that shapes the reality, that shapes everything, basically, in the universe, that creative potential that allows us to create something from practically nothing, or, a big tree from a seed, or a baby from a human seed, So that's there in the deepest layer of the soul. And then there's the mental layer, which is masculine. It's the intellectual aspect that allows us to judge and discriminate and remember and learn and all that, and also to become self-aware, to express that light of consciousness. Then comes the emotional layer. These layers are like nested shades, like the shades of a lamp. They're nested together. And the emotional layer is feminine. It's a feminine aspect of the mind that connects us to the intelligence of the heart and is also closer to our sensory perception, to the senses. And then comes the energy layer, or the prana layer, which is neutral. And its quality really depends on what's directing it, whether it's creative energy or emotional energy or mental energy and so on, or physical energy, of course, because it keeps all these other subtle layers together and attaches them to the physical body when we incarnate. And even the physical body, which is the densest layer and really belongs to the earth, it's made of the earth, has both feminine and masculine qualities. The senses are receptive, which are, it's a feminine quality. They're like open windows of perception, and the organs of action are more masculine. They're action-oriented. And then even, each organ, each system, has feminine and masculine qualities. There's always this interplay going on. That makes the physical body the vehicle of expression and action for the soul.
Now, you had an interesting hypothesis, and a really interesting idea itself was you claimed that we disconnected from the divine feminine and sunk into the third dimension during the civilization of Atlantis. One, where do you think Atlantis is? And two is, how did you discover that, and why is it even more significant today?
Well, like I said before, I have always had the perception of life as energy, and that has kind of given me access to other dimensions, and especially to the past. So I've always had the ability to perceive past lives and, discover like big memories like that. Not really consciously. It's not like I control that, but things that come to me like that. And so I discovered that when I was going through a grieving process, when my marriage fell apart, and I was really, really sad and going through a lot of turmoil, and that's also when I discovered I was an Indigo, and that I was expressing the wounded feminine on the planet. That's when the feminine masculine soul spectrum came about, and I started remembering a lot of things from Atlantis, our life in Atlantis, but in particular, what happened when certain soul types took over. They started taking charge of things, manipulating, saying, "Hey, let's rebel and let's make this planet our own experiment. Let's take full charge. It's time for us to grow up." And at the time, most souls were the equivalent of teenagers. Indigos are still at that level. We are still teenager souls. And so, of course, we wanted to rebel, and we wanted to take charge, and we wanted to believe that it was a rite of passage. And so these martial souls, I call them, were very much interested in experimenting with energy and all the elements of the planet. So they started doing that, and in that process, we kind of disconnected from the lunar energies. They messed up things, and everything started blowing up and falling down, crumbling, and it was quite a traumatic experience. And as we disconnected from the feminine, from our places of origin, from our lineages, from the strands of DNA that connected to us to all of that, to our past and so on, we also sank into third dimension because there was a crack that opened the interdimensional sections of the earth, what we call the underworld, and a lot of lower entities and that were really they didn't belong to where we were, which was fifth dimension, started coming up and kind of invading and sucking up our energy, because they were kind of lost, and they were like puppies lost and not knowing what to do. And so it was a mess. It was a total mess, a total disaster. But as a result, we sunk into this third dimension. The continent, the islands of Atlantis actually sank, into what is now the Atlantic Ocean, all the way up to close to Africa and so on. And then we had to reincarnate, come back, and start from scratch and clean up this mess. And so that it is very significant today, because all of that happened because we were transitioning into a masculine cycle, a masculine cosmic cycle, and a dark cycle at that. And so we were moving into what's known as the Kali Yuga, the dark cosmic cycle. But it was also a masculine led cycle. And so these excessively masculine souls were the vehicles, if you will, to make that happen. And so we have been going through that cycle for over 10,000 years, and now we've reached the extreme of masculinity, and it's time to turn around and move in the opposite direction, because otherwise we would just destroy life on Earth, right? So we're moving back towards a feminine cycle and a cycle of light, because everything in the universe is all cycles within cycles within cycles, right? And
exactly.
So
well, honey, let's go to break.
For us, I'm sorry?
And we need to go to break, and when we come back, let's pick up from here, okay?
Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back.
You'll find us at www.themagichappens.com, your free online magazine.
Are you at a crossroads in your life? Or are you feeling stuck and not sure where to turn? We can help. Visit our website at psychic.biz from your computer, smartphone, or tablet, where you can get accurate readings and insight by speaking with any one of our tested advisors. We offer live chat, video sessions, one-on-one phone calls, and even email readings. We have several gifted psychics, tarot readers, astrologers, and other healers from around the world who are available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your initial chat is always free, and our psychics do offer special prices and low per-minute rates. Visit us today at psychic.biz and get the guidance you need today for your tomorrow.
You're listening to the Magic Happens Radio Network, sponsored by the Magic Happens magazine. You'll find us at www.themagichappens.com.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Do you have burning questions you need answered? We all do. Visit our website at psychic.biz, where you can find accurate psychics, tarot readers, and astrologers from around the world who are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can have your questions answered anonymously and right from your computer, tablet, or smartphone. The introductory chat is always free, and we offer low per-minute rates and special promotions. Our online psychics offer helpful, practical guidance into what matters most to you. Visit us today at psychic.biz.
And you'll find us at www.themagichappens.com, your free online magazine.
Well, welcome back. And Yol was telling us about how Atlantis ties into the soul energy and how we're moving into a new cycle. Yol, will you go ahead and finish that up, honey? I'm sorry I had to cut you off, but we had to go to station break.
Yeah, no problem. So what I was saying is that we have reached the extreme of masculinity, and we are turning around and moving towards a feminine cosmic cycle of light. And so all feminine souls are awakening to this calling. It's really a subtle revolution of the spirit that is unstoppable because it is subtle. It's not external. It has to come from within, from our personal transformation and restoring the feminine within ourselves to feel more empowered and more connected and more wholesome. And so it's significant to understand that prehistory in the sense that it can help clarify, and I explain all that in more detail in the book, of course. It clarifies how we've come to where we're at now, where we see so much suffering, so much injustice, so much pain, so much chaos in so many places on Earth, and we especially experience how wounded the feminine is, and how we need to start healing the Earth, and taking charge again, but to go in the opposite direction, to create more balance.
So you would say that restoring the feminine would bring balance to the planet, because there's so much healing that needs to be done. What ways would, or how would this be achieved?
Well, the restoring the feminine, because the feminine is the inner aspects, is the deeper aspects of anything and everything, and of course of each soul. It means transforming things from within. So it's not rallying up the masses to a great revolution and changing things and, putting new people in power that are going to eventually repeat the same story. It's not like what we have experienced through our history. This is really a transformation that comes from self-awareness and self-empowerment and creative focus, really harnessing that feminine creative power to start shaping a different reality individually and, of course, then collectively, because we're all connected. And the restoring the feminine really means restoring all those feminine qualities that have been so suppressed and squelched, like the receptive, the intuitive, the compassionate, the loving, the connecting nature that makes us suffer right now, because we feel like the world is not promoting that in any way. It's promoting the opposite. It's promoting a corporate mentality that compartmentalizes things and separates people and puts people against each other and promotes war and division and greed and all that stuff, instead of the qualities of the feminine that are more nurturing, more fluid, more flexible, more tolerant and compassionate, non-linear, more driven by freedom rather than control and power. And so we need to restore the feminine by restoring those aspects within ourselves and really embracing who we are, especially feminine souls, but anybody who's willing to look at their feminine sides and nurture those, of course.
And your book talks about that.
Yeah, the book explores in depth the wounded feminine, the indigo archetype, what it means to be a feminine soul, and what we are experiencing as feminine souls, and how to self-align, how to soul integrate, so to speak, so that we can feel more empowered and bring forth what we're here to do, what is at the essence of our soul, the essence of our purpose here, of our mission, if you will, as souls, because every soul type has specific purpose, just like every cell in your body has specific function, but they all have to work together, right? So it's the same thing on a human level, and we have to really recognize who we are, why we do what we do, what we want to do, what's the vision that we come with, that inner vision that we need to bring forward, how we can contribute to that. And the book gives, specific guidelines and step-by-step exercises and practical tools, along with, insight and a philosophical background to put all of that within a context, to help those sensitive and empathic and compassionate souls that feel a little lost and hurt and confused with everything that's going on, find their purpose, find their place in the world, and really bring forth their contribution to transform this overly masculine world.
Yeah, and your book also talks about like main aspects of your spiritual healing system of energy management and soul integration.
My spiritual healing system is very practical, but it's about integrating or aligning the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual aspects of the soul. Because we tend to separate those, and they tend to lead us in different directions. And so that creates a lot of self-defeating patterns, self-defeating perception, because we are not cohesive with ourselves, right? We have internalized dynamics that we acquired in childhood that want to, us to behave in a certain way. And we have certain desires that pull us in a different direction. And we also feel like we should do things to please others and do all sorts of things to interact in the world that, and of course we have responsibilities, things that we need to take out there, to take care of out there. And so it's like our energy is always pulled in different directions. So the system is focused on harnessing all of that, kind of reclaiming your energy from the past, energy that you've been giving away along with your power and your focus, energy that you it's kind of tainted or confused because you absorb from other people without knowing that it's really not yours, right, and so on. So because feminine souls are very sensitive and receptive, healing the feminine soul really requires great self-awareness, self-discipline, and creative focus to transcend the negative tendencies and karmic ties that we've accumulated, both individually and collectively. So it's basically a system based on emotional honesty, to really look at yourself honestly and look as deeply as you can. Mental self-discipline, to stop believing what I call your sense of otherness, which is an aspect of ego, where we carry conditioning and wounds and all sorts of stuff, is always leading us to do, and that are really not, that don't serve us anymore, because we're not kids anymore, and we have to find our own path, our own destiny, and develop what I call spiritual responsibility, which is to understand that you create your own life movie with that incredible feminine power that lies within you, and using a script that you have acquired throughout your story, your life story, but that is not necessarily the best script. So you can take spiritual responsibility and step out of the victim role and take charge of your life and start building a much better future. And as we do that, we are also transforming the collective, because we're all connected. So it's a system that of personal transformation that is also aimed to transform the world.
Wow. Now, your book also suggests that we can leap into the fifth dimension if we change our perception. How do we make this shift?
Well, that's a process of, again, self-awareness and delving deeper and deeper into the more feminine aspects of the soul, because the ego makes us, which, by the way, the ego is a virtual layer. It doesn't really belong to the soul unless we are incarnated. It's our identification with the physical senses. Yeah. And so the mind gets identified with that, and we get so attached to the to the physical that we forget that we are a lot more than just physical, right? So
right.
So if we are perceiving life just from that level, from the physical, well, life is always going to feel like it just happens to us and we have no control whatsoever, right? It's kind of what most people experience. But if we start stepping back and looking deeper within ourselves, then we can have a little broader perspective, like from the emotional layer. Well, we can see that we are connected, that our actions have consequences, that we have to be more empathic and more tolerant, and we connect with people and then the world in a different way. If we step even further back and we move into the mental layer, we get to know our psychological tendencies, what motivates us, and so on, then we have a bigger picture of who we are and what we're doing and why we behave the way we do and others do as well. And so that gives us an even bigger picture. Now, if we step even further and really tap into our spiritual senses and the spiritual forces within us, then we perceive life from a fifth dimension, like we used to when we were in Atlantis and before then. So it's really a much higher awareness of life and less attachment to the physical senses. So the further away from the physical, the closer we get to the self, to the true self, and to our divine nature. And so it's just a matter of placing ourselves further and further so we get a bigger picture and we really put the pieces of our life puzzle together to understand who we are, what our life is about, and what is all this big divine game or divine play that we are part of. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yol, where can people learn more about your book, and specifically your book, but also where they can get into services and maybe even contact you for different programs you're offering? Because you have a lot of different classes. You want to also share a little bit about those classes and trainings that you're offering?
Sure. People can find me at, my main website is soulguidedcoach.com. And I offer a variety of services like private spiritual counseling and conscious business coaching for spiritual entrepreneurs. I also have an individual Indigo soul healing program that's just for Indigos like me, and other energy healing services. And I'm launching a group program this year based on the book and the purpose of restoring the feminine and healing that feminine within all of us. That is called Unlock Your Hidden Power for Self-Healing, Abundance, and Joy. And later I'm gonna launch another program to discover your life purpose, which is also part of the book, as the very last chapter of the book. That after we put all the pieces together of our self-exploration and energy management, then we need to really understand what we're here to do and how we can make a valuable contribution, because everybody has something to contribute to this world. So I really promote that. I really believe that. Now, the book can be found on Amazon.com as both print and ebook, and as an ebook also at Barnes & Noble and iTunes, and in print in certain bookstores, small bookstores that carry metaphysical stuff, items and books. And if people want to learn more about the book beforehand, they can go to the book website, which is theindigojournals.com. Or they can go directly to Amazon, and there's information about it there, too.
Yeah. Now, is there any hopes of this going into audio? Because I think this would be awesome for a trip, especially the first part where they're talking about your story.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, I guess that's a possible project.
Yeah, I think it would be
It's a big book.
great.
I mean, you have the book, so it's a big book.
Yeah,
I
have the book. I
446
love the
pages.
book. It doesn't look as pretty as it did when it arrived because now it's all highlighted because I love some of your quotes. For those that are,
it's definitely not a book that you can just read quickly and forget about it. It's something that you need to go back to and review and revisit.
Exactly.
But even though it's centered around the wounded feminine and indigo archetype, it offers an in-depth exploration of the soul that can benefit anyone willing to look within and really nurture a different perception of life. A fifth-dimensional perception of themselves and of life.
Mm-hmm. Now, just a moment ago, you mentioned that you're a metaphysical business coach. Does this book tie into that a good bit too?
Well, the last chapter where I help people find their purpose, or at least get a clearer understanding of what their life purpose is and their soul purpose. I explore a little bit of that, because a lot of my clients are spiritual entrepreneurs. They do energy healing or Reiki or yoga teaching or or coaching as well, and so they need to have those tools to integrate their own process, their own growth process into their business, so that the business does not become like a job. It's something that keeps growing and get them motivated and also growing and expanding along with the business. So it could be anything of a spiritual nature. It's my work is based on a feminine business model, so it's not like your typical business plan kind of
right. You're not teaching them how to write a 5-year business plan, which I don't think anybody ever does anymore, unless they're really old.
But this is more feminine in that it integrates all the aspects of our personal growth, and it's about connecting. It's about being completely honest and visible and empowering what you do, as opposed to just hiding behind credentials or a big name or a big brand.
Right. And
this is really, really okay. This whole experience of going through this information and hearing what you have to say is really exciting for me. Just because, it ties into our past lives in a way. It takes us back to, those many lifetimes, don't you feel?
Oh, very much so.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there you are.
Black Talk isn't liking me tonight. They're going to get a sermon after the show. I'll save that for after the show. I want to be expressing my more feminine side then. But I really like your book. I actually done a YouTube review, and if you guys haven't checked out our YouTube channel, we are on YouTube. Just search The Psychic Coffee Shop, and there's a link to her website and her book. And, get this book, because it has everything in it. I mean, it talks about cherishing your home and finding where you're comfortable at. And one of the great quotes that I loved out of it was your fear quote, that once you accept spiritual responsibility, then you know that there is nothing to fear. And I find that stops so many people nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And fear is really the opposite of love. So when you fear, you stop that flow of love, and you miss out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it stops so much growth. So,
yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on, honey. We're going to wrap this up so I can go rip Blog Talk a new one. But please come back when you have something, when you launch that new program. We'd love to hear what you're offering with it. When's your launch date for it, so our listeners can maybe hop on board with that?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure chatting with you guys tonight.
You too,
Yol. It was a pleasure, and this just ties into so many things that I just know are just wonderful for people who are really wanting to go out there and just really kind of get down and find out about, that healing. Because this is a whole part of us that most of us don't even know about.
Right. And a lot of us don't even have the understanding of it. So thank you so much for channeling and sharing this, Yol. Have a great time.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, Brainy, I'm branching out a little bit. I'm going visiting tomorrow.
You're going visiting tomorrow. Where are you going?
Yes. I'm going over to Ask One Broadcast and visit Lady Catherine and her show live over there.
Oh.
At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She and me will be talking about starting a new relationship after you got out of the broke up and recovered. So that'll be interesting. Are you going to be doing anything?
Well, I know that I'm going to be actually looking a little bit further in this and see how maybe I can be using that with my further writing with respect to my upcoming portion of the newsletter that I want to bring in when it comes to taking back your power. I am continuing. I've got some projects, again, like I said, going on that totally relate to that. And so I'm continuing to do that each day.
Wonderful.
That's really important to me right now.
Right.
That is really exciting. You need to tell Lady Catherine hi.
I will. I'll let you know, lady. I'll be sure to tell Lady Catherine hi for you. And you can be sure to listen in. Because she's also sponsored by the same sponsor we have over at psychic.biz. They sponsor us. They take care of us. You can reach any of our hosts there. Me, Rainey, Sophia, Rose Knight. He was on last week with us. So, yeah, you got to come over and check us out tomorrow night, Rainey.
Yeah. And
have you got your schedule now down for when you're on Psychic Biz, sweetie?
I have been on every day. I'm usually on during the day, but sometimes I'm on in the evening too. But I've been on every day up until somewhere around 7 o'clock each evening.
Mountain Standard Time.
Yes.
You have to clarify Mountain Standard Time because everybody else is used to us being on Eastern Standard Time. Well, thank you for stopping in. I hope to sit down and have some more tea with you another night. And until then, good night, everyone. Good night, Rainey.
Good night. It was a pleasure.
Are you at a crossroads in your life? Or are you feeling stuck and not sure where to turn? We can help. Visit our website at psychic.biz from your computer, smartphone, or tablet, where you can get accurate readings and insight by speaking with any one of our tested advisors. We offer live chat, video sessions, one-on-one phone calls, and even email readings. We have several gifted psychics, tarot readers, astrologers, and other healers from around the world who are available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your initial chat is always free, and our psychics do offer special prices and low per-minute rates. Visit us today at psychic.biz and get the guidance you need today for your tomorrow.
You're listening to the Magic Happens Radio Network, sponsored by the Magic Happens magazine. You'll find us at www.themagichappens.com.